DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Teenage girls are out drinking their male peers in the UK at a greater rate than any other European country. Yes, more than a third of 15-year-old girls in the UK report getting repeatedly drunk, compared to less than a quarter of boys the same age. I suppose what I'd say to this is, boys, what are you doing? Pull yourself together. Well, joining me now is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, and the former Labour advisor, Matthew Larzer. Charlotte, you're going to have to speak up on behalf of girls the country over here. 15-year-old girls boozing much more than their male counterparts.
I think it's to do with the pain threshold, so we can handle hangovers better.
Do you get hangovers when you're 15 years old?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was drinking hooch and smelling...
Absolutely. Whatever happened to hooch?
Yeah. And I just think we can tolerate it better. Right. And I don't know, I grew up in that kind of wild child 90s drinking era. I'm showing my age a bit. And, God, we drank a lot as teenage girls. I mean, it's actually shocking now in retrospect.
Well, I also think in terms of boys versus girls, I wonder if we've got a bit of a thing about... I mean, the old cliché that girls develop quicker, they can become social quicker. They can certainly get into the pub more easily because they look older. Yeah. You know, because of makeup, etc. I wonder if the boys are all just, you know, in their rooms playing on their devices, as it were. You know, as people increasingly dominated by screens. Whether, in fact, there's an issue about socialisation, about whether, in fact, you know, the lads are not out there socialising.
They have little sips of wine in France from the age of, like, 12, and they're absolutely fine about it. Yeah. Whereas we all know what happens to British girls, because I was one of them. You turn, however, old enough to get a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, and boy, do you go for it, and until you're vomiting, basically.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out which tech mogul is being treated like a terrorist, why Liz Truss is telling Keir Starmer to do what she did after 49 days, and what you can get away with saying now on Facebook. My older relatives are going to have a great time. I'm Stephen Allen, and tonight's comedians are Kerry Marks and Josh Howie. This is Headliners. But before Friday's news, let's get tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wensler with your headlines from the GB newsroom. The mayor of Los Angeles has said historic winds and extensive droughts created the perfect storm, but dropping winds mean firefighters are now able to tackle the fires from the air, and authorities are hopeful the tide is turning. The Hollywood Hills blaze, described as the most destructive in LA's history, has claimed 5 lives and forced 179,000 people to evacuate, including many A-list stars. Meanwhile, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have issued a statement on Californian fires, urging people to check in on disabled and elderly people. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who live in Montecito, have called for friends and neighbours of those impacted by the wildfires to open their homes. President Joe Biden has delivered the eulogy for the late former US President Jimmy Carter at his state funeral following his death last month at the age of 100. President Biden, who has declared a national day of mourning, spoke in front of all 4 living former presidents, saying Jimmy Carter made a powerful difference. Carter, a Nobel Prize winner and the 39th US president, is being remembered for his leadership and humanitarian work. Now, a new YouGov poll commissioned by the Women's Policy Centre has revealed that 76% of the British public back calls for a national inquiry into the sexual abuse and rape of children by grooming gangs. And 77% support measures to revoke British nationality and deport those with dual nationality found guilty of grooming and raping young girls. It comes after Labour MPs rejected a Conservative push for a new national inquiry by 364 votes to 111. The Prime Minister has welcomed his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron at his country residence, the Chequers. Sir Keir Starmer said the pair plan to discuss a number of issues, including the situation in Ukraine and the Middle East. While Downing Street has previously indicated that illegal migration, tech and growth would also be on the agenda. The meeting comes ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, and there have been concerns about what his return to the White House could mean for the US support for Ukraine. And travel chaos continues across the UK as heavy snow and winds cause widespread disruption. The Met Office has issued new weather warnings for parts of the UK, with yellow warnings for ice and snow in place until tomorrow morning. The two new warnings cover parts of Northern Ireland and Wales, as well as areas in northwest England and the east of England. They come after an existing warning for snow and ice in parts of northern Scotland. Temperatures will continue to fall over the coming days, potentially reaching minus 20 degrees in northern parts of the UK tonight. The Health Security Agency, has also extended its cold weather alert until Sunday, warning of serious health risks. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. Before we dive in, let's take a look at what Carey and Josh will have to work with Friday's front pages. The Telegraph, Reeves missing in action on debt crisis. The Daily Mail goes with UK faces crisis like the 1970s, Reeves warned. The Mirror, Musk hate probe. Need some verbs in that sentence. The Daily Express goes with jihadi bride could run free within days. At least run's a verb there. Metro, Lost Angeles, too soon. And the Daily Star goes with lettuce who crashed the economy tells bloke who is crashing the economy, don't say I crashed the economy. More on that later. But, Carey, we start with the Mirror. What are they treating us with? Hello.
Hello. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
Just say my hellos first. Yes, we start
with... Have you had a bang on the head recently?
We have so much news, Carey.
We don't always say hello.
Well, we can't afford your hellos. We've got too much news we've got to get on with.
It's presumed.
Diving in when, you know, we're having to politeness. OK, so the first story we get at the very top of the Mirror is that it's Kate's birthday.
Oh, and they've given us a nice AI picture as well. It's great, isn't it?
Yes, is that an AI picture? How are you telling? Extra fingers?
It just looks like it, doesn't it?
It could be. Yeah,
trying to start an internet crisis.
Yeah, maybe. I did see there was... it might have been on a BBC site, I'm not sure. The headline was that Prince William has congratulated his wife on her birthday. Like that's the story. Like, do you congratulate...
What are you doing?
Do you say happy birthday to your wife?
We want to talk about the grooming gangs, and you're talking about... What are you doing?
It's on the front of the Mirror.
Do you
say happy birthday to your wife?
When's her birthday?
I just thought that was normal. I thought it was a normal thing to do.
But when he does it, it's like, the royals.
It's the royal. Oh, yeah, you get a royal happy birthday. We don't all get one of those. OK, so let's do the bigger story here, because I can see that Josh is itching and he's going to hit me soon. Exclusive security threat. Musk hate probe. This is not about how Musk hates probes, although it sounds like it is.
Taking a probe as bottom.
He's going to be probed.
Musk loves
Not everyone hates that. We don't know how he feels about that. Sorry, you were saying.
Probes.
He loves
Come on, he's got
very
the
probable.
Neuralink thing. Yeah, and the Mars probes. He loves a probe.
We're told the UK counter-terrorism unit, according to the Mirror, has raised alarms and raised the risk to Britain over Elon Musk, which sounds a little bit like it's kind of lost the plot a bit. Maybe. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it seems like, you know, some of his comments on, say, Jess Phillips, which I think were outrageous. I think that was a bit nasty, and it's not... and it's very Trumpian. You know, I think he's been hanging out with Trump too much, and he's picked up a way of talking that it's just not the way we talk in Britain, is it? It's not our kind.
Yeah, well,
of
they just go straight for the jugular, don't they?
Yes. Yes, they
Basically.
do. Yes,
Also,
they do.
you could be wrong with that.
Saying throw them in prison and so on. So he's doing that. But
the tweet might be wrong. Like what he said might be wrong, but doesn't mean he's an extremist.
No, but I think he is either a little or a big megalomaniac, and it doesn't mean I don't agree with him on a few things, or I don't think he's got the right to say them. And I think what he's done to X is getting very interesting, because I think it was I think it was damning speech for quite a long time and making it difficult for some speech to get through. And I think really there's major disadvantages to free speech. There's also a much bigger advantage to it. It's a price we pay.
This is the first of many, many mental stories tonight. The idea that our counter-extremism unit is investigating his tweets. First of all, he's always tweeting saying, oh, look, in England, they're all going crazy and people are getting arrested. And then and I go, oh, that's silly. Or, I mean, it's an exaggeration. That's what he does. And then this is exactly what it seems like they are doing about it. And they're also saying things like that this is the Mirror. And the things that they're saying is social media could once again trigger violence on our streets, talking about what happened in Southport. I would argue it wasn't the social media that triggered the violence. It was the death of young girls was what triggered the violence. And then they're talking about how this is a guy from Hope Not Hate. And I've defended some of their work in the past. Like, it's not like I think that they're like an evil institution or anything like that. But I think they are very like one-sided in where
they don't like you anymore.
Well, they're probably not. But they are so sort of one-sided in who they go after. But the idea they said here, they've got their director of research, Joe Mulhall, says Mr. Musk comfortably sits within any definition of an extremist. Like, it's so ridiculous. By the way, the bloke who runs their organisation, Hope Not Hate, is a guy who put out a message saying how Muslims were being acid attacked, and that led to that actually did lead to violence out on the street, gangs of Muslims roaming around. So when he's talking about this is a platform that's contributed to the extreme violence on the streets of Britain, his boss literally, that's what happened. So the whole story is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd say also they're saying that because of the free speech now on X, they're watching a few people who are questioning. Well, I think that's kind of the point of free speech, isn't it? People expose themselves so they know who to look out for and so on. But yeah, I agree. I think this story is just an over-the-top, ridiculous angle, and it's largely because Musk has now stepped in and on the rape gangs and so on. And however you feel about it, that's been going on for decades. It's ridiculous that it's taken someone else to step in and say something to
the reason they're looking into it is because the risk that he might be destabilising Britain. Britain ain't stable. Yeah. That's the point.
I've been given a note that I should say the Home Office have confirmed that they are monitoring social media, which I guess means they're seeing Elon's tweets. But then again, whether you want to see his tweets or not, you see them. They just appear, don't they? Well, you don't have to follow him. He owns the...
But I thought they're supposed to monitor social media anyway. Of course they are.
Yeah,
I don't think that's even an interesting story.
So you say the Mirror lying, it's not Musk hate probe. It could be Kerry Mark's hate probe. Yeah. If they're just looking at anybody.
I think that's a part of the story that no one's saying. If you think what Musk has said... No, but...
hold on, you're the one who was all indifferent about Kate's birthday.
If someone else says what Musk is saying, would you call him an extremist? And just, you can't have it that these words are extremist if Musk says it and not if someone else says it. And they're not monitoring anyone else in the same way. That's why it does feel like you're just going after the guy because he's got the power.
Yes.
Yeah.
He does have the power.
He's got the power.
He does have the power.
You got a blue sky.
I always find it funny that whenever you see him in any article of any paper, he's always described as the richest man in the world. But it's where they normally put the age. And they don't do age with Musk. It's really interesting. They do with anyone else. They say Josh Howie, 78 or whatever. But then they'll put the number. But they won't. But here with Musk, they always say richest man. So
imagine what that sentence would be. It would be the 3,592th richest man in the world.
You said 78. I just dyed my beard. Enough people notice. 10 years off, mate.
10 years off. It's 68 now. Josh, Telegraph. What have they got on the front page?
Yeah, Daily Telegraph, lots of news. Reeves missing in action on debt crisis. So this is the first of a couple of these stories about how guilds have gone up and basically a huge amount of the money that has just been increased in our taxes is actually going on paying off the debt. Now, that debt arguably isn't her fault or the Labour government's fault. It goes really back to, it's a long-term thing, even before lockdown. There was debt there, but certainly lockdown, that massively increased it. So that debt is there. How do they then get on top of it? But when you're using this money that is meant to be paying for services just to facilitate the debt, then that's when people start getting worried. They're saying she's missing in action, she's gone to China. Well, a part of her job is to get more money for this country, and China, the second largest economy in the world, is one of the places to go and get it and beg them and say, hey, you can take us over. It's when you or Trump are going to come and take us over. So it's a bit unfair to accuse her of all these different things. At the same time, she's sort of trapped in a bit of a hard place.
Yeah. Do you think it's even extra unfair that they mentioned that she's gone to meet with communists? Like,
Did they say that?
Paragraph, yeah, like communists. What's she up to?
She's clearly trying to woo China because, and I do think the budget has. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I walked over you.
No,
you
didn't even realise you said woo China and.
You were taking something racist from that.
No, Josh was, and I was laughing at him for it.
Are you telling me that wasn't a joke or it was a joke?
It was not intended at all. No.
But you see that it's a joke, right?
And I don't accept it as a joke.
Well, I think it was a very good joke.
OK, I'm retiring now.
Your own joke.
I think there's good reason for her to go to China, but I also think it's the Labour Party are trying to cosy up to China as an answer to all this, and the budget. We're beginning to see effects of the budget, and considering that Rachel Reeves said growth, and this is a growth budget, and it's all about growth, and have I said growth yet? Because I really mean to say growth quite a lot, and then she grew the word growth and said it really slowly, growth, and it still didn't work because businesses are suffering under it. They have been affected by it. Borrowing costs have gone up massively, and so we don't know the full effect of the budget yet, but it's not looking like it's about growth at the moment.
Yes, almost the opposite of growth.
Well, yeah, definitely it's not. What is the opposite of growth?
Ungrowth.
Degrowth.
When they came into power, there was a lot of focus on the growth, and that's what they said before they got into power, and then it feels like they dropped the ball on that focus on it, and now that's what they got to do is get back to it. Arguably, going to China, though, is one of those things that will hopefully allow us to grow.
Well, we're free to negotiate with all these trading partners now, aren't we? That's what we've got. It's the power. We got the power.
Sure, absolutely. We got the power. You can break into song.
There's another story here.
But it's not like the trust. I was going to say it's not like the trust budget at this point. But at the same time, the trust budget. The real problem with that was it took everyone in business and so on by surprise.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit different. It's having a slower effect.
Yeah. The gilt yields are higher now than they were during that. But the speed with which it happened, trust, is why it was passed on to mortgages straight away. This has not been passed on to mortgages.
27-year high.
Yes, correct.
That's the only number I can remember,
say correct.
And I don't know what it means. But another story here I do know about Badenoch. Unions have taken back control in Labour's Britain. So after a bit of a shaky Christmas, she's come out fighting. She had a pretty good Prime Minister's questions yesterday. And now she is, and I've got to agree with all these points. Essentially, she thinks people voted for Labour thinking it's going to be like a new Labour, Tony Blair type situation. And she's arguing that it's more like just Jeremy Corbyn, but with Keir Starmer in charge. We are seeing some disturbing developments, one of them being this bill they're trying to put through, their education bill. Education is one of the areas that the Tories actually did well at, including having these academy trusts. Now they're going to force these academies to adopt a national curriculum, which it sounds like they're actually pushing a bunch of very uneducational stuff. Is that even a word? I don't know. If I'd gone to a good school...
Are there loads of academies that don't go very close to the national curriculum? Because you still want to get the good results. And all there is, most of the time has to be spent teaching.
But they have to do certain basics, but the idea is this would follow quite specific, which is the whole point of academies, is it gave people the freedom to how they thought that the choices, that how they wanted their kids to be educated.
I thought the bigger deal... Sorry I thought the bigger deal was changing the pay structure with the academies. The academies can pay whatever they want, and that's the thing that's been changed. I thought that would be more impactful.
Well, this is also going to stop that as well.
Yeah, but I just presumed that they teach so close to the national curriculum because you've got to try and squeak these kids through GCSEs.
Yeah, but anyway, the point is it's a good line of attack, and she's right to be doing it.
Yeah, I think she's right to say the unions are gaining power. What was the first thing Labour did when they came in was give the unions all the money they were asking for and so on, which has not stopped them asking for more.
To be fair, then.
I'm not sure what they kind of had to.
No, you have to follow the whatever the suggestion is of the pay board.
Yes, but you can put down all kinds of caveats and rules and say, yes, but you have to come in and do overtime, yes, but you do Sundays, yes, but you do this, and you can get something for your money.
Yeah, that would have been
and also you can woo China. I just wanted to say that again for no reason whatsoever, because Josh likes it.
Speak to the hat.
Yeah. So, yes, that's the way things are going. Are we not going to mention that there's Russian spies in Yarmouth?
We're not allowed Yarmouth. My handler told me not. I mean, yeah, sure, if you want to.
I haven't got anything on it. Just there's a Russian spy ring in Great Yarmouth. I thought that was...
Why would they go to Great Yarmouth?
They've missed, haven't they? If you've turned
they like the sea.
OK, fine. They've amassed thousands of items of electronic surveillance.
Yeah.
Basically, they've opened a Curry's in Great Yarmouth.
All right, fair enough. Now, we try and fit in a little bit of the Times, Kerry. What can we do on that?
You want a little bit? Which little bit do you want?
I'd love to do... I mean, Burnham talking about
here.
grooming gangs, because a lot of people on grooming gangs have been chanting his surname.
OK, so what's happened is Andy Burnham has apparently risked Labour civil war over grooming gangs. So he's asking for a national inquiry, which is kind of going against the sort of Labour stance at the moment. But he's asking for a limited national inquiry, which that's the one part I don't get. I think at this point there's so many questions hanging in the air. I think a thorough and full national inquiry would be a good thing. I know there's been loads of inquiries, but they've been very unsatisfactory. They haven't solved very much. Yeah. And also none of the recommendations have really been implemented. And I think really what we've got to do is look at a new way of doing inquiries. I don't see why we can't implement ideas and suggestions from previous inquiries whilst having a full inquiry to fully say what has actually happened, who is to blame and so on. And at the same time, an inquiry should be able to implement laws as it goes.
Yeah, but the thing that's driving me bonkers about this story is that Number 10's response is they're saying they hit back at his calls by insisting that a national probe would just be a delay. Like the fact that, you know, they've got these recommendations from the J report, 20-odd so, and they haven't been implemented, fair enough, under a Tory government. They should have done that. But the idea that it's one or the other, and the idea that they're playing people as being like, we're so thick that we think that, oh, well, you can't have a report if you're going to not... You can't put these things in place if there's not a report. It's like, you can do both. You can do both. There are more than one person works for the government. I know it seems that there's only like one person. There is more. So it's not... It's just like the fact that they're treating us as so stupid that we can't see through this pathetic line that they're trying to push. You can do a report and you can also implement the previous report.
And the thing that Keir Starmer said, if we do another report, it'll be 7 years until it returns its results. No, that's how long the last one took. Yeah. It's not like they're all 7-year terms. Yes. And this is why they do want limited, is so that it doesn't take 7 years. Yes. You can have one that is specifically just about this issue, get it in and out, bish, bash, bosh. If it's national, it's statutory, so it's got legally binding powers to get people to give evidence. So it would make sense to do it, but it's sleight of hand, isn't it, to say, oh, if we do that, it'll be another 7 years.
It's just driving me mad. And then the other thing is, we'll be guided by the victims, and what we've heard from the victims is they don't want a national inquiry, and now that Really? That's what they said? No, they probably said, please implement these recommendations. That doesn't mean that they don't want a national... I bet if you actually went up to them, of course they want a national inquiry. Oh, no, you don't want to see more about the terrible things that happened to you so we can fix it?
They would have said they don't want a national inquiry after you've just said, I mean, it'll be a 7-year delay and we won't do anything about it until then. And then they'll say, oh, no, probably don't want one.
Yeah,
but
exactly. If that's the option given to them, but the option should be we'll be implementing many of these rules as we go, so...
Right, well, that's all the front pages, all roughed up, still to come. Labour splits on grooming gangs. We've got Elon getting the cops going after him. All of this lies ahead of us. Plus, why I'm moving to the Netherlands. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Figures released by the National Child Measurement Programme in 2024 found that almost 1 in 10 children was obese in the first year of school. Children living in deprived areas are twice as likely to be overweight as those in more affluent parts. Organisations like the Prepped Foundation are educating youngsters about healthy eating by giving them the skills to create balanced meals. TV chef James Golding has joined the foundation as the head of food education, and he joins me now to talk about the work. James, lovely to see you here.
Good to see you too. So Prepped used to be Table Talk Foundation, and it's now obviously Prep for Life, Prep for Knowledge. It's basically a charity to encourage kids to have a better understanding of food, but at the same time enjoy cooking and hopefully make better food choices in their life, as well as perhaps, you know, share the information we give them with their families.
Do you see them developing an understanding of the difference between a healthy and unhealthy food?
Yes, I think that, you know, kids tend to sort of be taught a lot of this in school, but being able to actually ask questions to a chef and be able to cook with produce which they know is one, that it's going to be tasty because they've tasted it, but two, open their eyes to food that they may not have tried before. I think that, you know, I think a lot of kids say they don't want to try stuff because they don't like the way it looks, but the way that we produce our sessions, we encourage the kids to try, and I think it really does open their eyes. It's very easy, I think, currently to be able to make easier choices, say fast food choices or that type of thing, and it's obviously giving people the ability to make the right choices, but also the skills to be able to do it. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed and something that really needs to be pushed, and that's what we're doing as a charity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, still joined by Kerry Marks and Josh Howie. If you'd like to get involved, there's an opportunity. Use the internet. Go to gbnews.com/yoursay. Molly says the Daily Star has the best front page ever. We'll chat more about that in a bit, I guess. Anne-Marie says, just for information, the opposite of growth is shrink, and it's a coincidence that we'll all be needing one by the end of the show. Thank you. This one's nice from PW that says, I keep thinking of Kerry dressed as a musketeer. I know it's an odd fetish, but it's just that he's got that look about him. So there's an option.
A lot of people get that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I prefer degrowth. I think that was much nicer.
Yeah. One of the very few people to have a goatee nowadays.
Yeah, well, it just happens that way.
You're the one guy I know.
You got the musketeer vibe.
I'm doing stories, guys.
No, when it comes to talking about your goatee.
Let's start to
subject.
Times, Kerry, and this is good news for equal opportunities. Now, everyone is having a go at kids.
Yes, and there's a certain level of cognitive dissonance in this story. Children at threat from all races and genders, police chief says, which I wouldn't have thought was news. I thought we all know that all races and genders commit crimes. So this is the National Police Leader on Child Protection, Becky Riggs, who's an assistant chief constable, apparently. And she says that police officers should not be distracted by media coverage of grooming gangs. I don't know what that even means. Surely, is she saying that because they'd be distracted by this, they won't go after any other crimes?
You can only solve one crime.
You can only have one subject at a time. Yeah, it's very, very odd. It's basically telling them they should keep doing their jobs, which I expect is what they're doing. No one's disputing the fact she's coming up with. No one's saying that. But what I think she's missing with this is that this isn't simply about the gangs themselves. This is blaming identities. This is saying that all the identities involved in the police, in social services and elsewhere, and at government levels, turned a blind eye to something huge that was going on. And that's not, simply a race issue. It's also the organised nature of this crime was unusual, and its allowance to commit crime freely. So I think this goes off the point. Of course, it comes around again to Elon Musk, which they tell us is the world's richest man and the owner of X, rather than his age. Which,
How old is he?
We don't know. No one knows. No one knows, because when you're that rich, no one cares anymore. So what do you think on this, Josh? Is it even...
I don't know how old he is.
What's she doing? What's the point of this? Yeah.
No, it's another very annoying article because, yes, sex crime and child sex crime is, is across all ethnicities but then it says genders. The reality is, I don't know what it is, 97, 98%, 99% is men. So if you have a certain number of resources, you're going to go, oh, well, let's make sure we have 50% of our resources against the exploitation or against sex crimes or whatever. Let's put them into examining women. No, because that's not where it's happening. And so when they're sort of saying, oh, it's all races and all genders and whatever, no, you look at the data. And as they prove later on in the article, they don't actually have the data. They had a lack of data because no data was taken at the time, so they wouldn't look. And even if they had the data, they wouldn't look at it because you'd be racist or whatever it is. So it's well and good now to go, well, everybody does it, or it can be any... Yes, of course, any group is capable of it, or individuals of any group are capable of it. But we need to look exactly who are doing it most so we can allocate the resources accordingly. So putting something like gender in there is totally ridiculous.
It's also, sorry, she also wants a balanced approach to addressing the threat, but what does that mean? Like, if a shopkeeper commits a crime, we have to arrest all shopkeepers. What's the balanced approach? I thought the correct approach is you take each crime as it happens and deal with that, regardless of race or gender or anything else that you can throw into it.
Or age. Not that we know Elon's age.
We don't know
Is that why
Elon's
there's
age?
a cover-up about it?
It's a big mystery.
I know. I'm not like a male hater or anything like that. I don't want people like, oh, you soy boy and this and that. But just look at the data. That's all it is.
The data in the same article points out that it's over 80% of these crimes committed by white people, but it would be in a nation of over 80% white people.
We're 81.7% white in this country.
You know, the J report, that's when it came out, and everyone was like, oh, look at this! Yeah. Most of these crimes are committed by white people. Yeah, that makes total sense. And all of it, of course, is evil. But where is the over-representation? So where do we allocate more of our resources than we would normally? But as Kerry said earlier, when they're talking about strategies based on facts, and they were deliberately concealing facts, that's the problem. So them to turn around and go, oh, look, everybody, it's everybody, we should look at... Yeah. You haven't done your job. Don't turn around afterwards and go, oh, look, it can be anybody.
Totally. When we're talking about a particular type of organised crime, it's a different thing and it needs to be looked into for what it is rather than being compared with the actual crime statistics overall.
To the Daily Mail, Josh and the Dutch have managed to work out which migrants are the best ones to have, and it's from the UK. I might go there. It'll be nice to feel valued for once.
Yes, Dutch study produces map breakdown of how immigrants from different countries either contribute to economy or become a burden on taxpayers. And this story is really about Elon Musk's age.
Finally.
They are trying to get to the bottom of it. And do Dutch immigrants know how old he is and thus contribute to the economy or not? Speaking of the last story, which was about data, they have actually looked at their data and gone, well, who is making this country better, i.e. contributing economically to it? Well, arguably that is just one element of what contributions could be. And who is not? And they've found out from looking at data, because they are gathering their data and assessing it, whereas we like to pretend that data doesn't exist or hide it, or when you do freedom of information requests, they don't allow it out because there's fear of community cohesion and whatnot. But what they have found out is that people who come there to work, surprisingly, are contributing about $100,000 over their lifetime to net, over the amount, so they are contributing to the economy. And people who come there as asylum seekers, unfortunately, are taking about 400,000 euros over the course of their lifetime. So that's a big discrepancy there. And having a look at that data can allow a government to make choices about how many asylum seekers they can afford to take in, how many people they want to take in to work. Just look at the data. Stop being afraid of data.
You afraid of data? I feel like a Star Trek.
I think we're going off in the wrong direction because, more importantly, Fran500 says, I like your goatee. Josh is just jealous.
But do they say anything about Elon's age? Yeah. We need to get to the nub of the issue here.
Contribute.
Anyway, look, this is... when you go Dutch, it means sharing the bill. Right. But apparently, in the real world, it does not. So, yeah, as you say, asylum seekers cost... They cost $400,000. That's in a lifetime, but it's still... There's no advantage to taking people from certain countries and so on, financially at least. Basically, what happens is the country ends up buying immigrants, is what's really going on. And they've planned in the Dutch government is considering capping the population to 20 million, which I don't know whether they're planning everyone's going to get the snip, which would be interesting. But, yeah, that's...
More like Logan's Run. Once it gets over 20 million,
then you just
when it starts running towards a ball of light in the centre of a room.
Right, that's that section all sorted. Still to come. Starmer v Musk for a change. Facebook opens up and is Stonewall starting to crumble? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to stay cold out there for the next 24 hours. Frost and ice are the main issues because for most it will be dry as this area of high pressure moves in. However, we keep the northerly winds for the north of Scotland, the east coast as well, so further showers coming through overnight. And where those showers fall onto the cold surfaces, of course, there's always the risk of icy patches. In fact, just about anywhere could see slippery surfaces by the start of Friday. For most, though, it's a clear night with freezing fog patches forming Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the Midlands, and temperatures dropping below -5, below -10 in places. It's not going to be quite as cold in the far southwest because here we've got an Atlantic front moving in. That's going to bring out breaks of rain with snow falling above 150 metres. So Dartmoor, a few more centimetres of snow. At lower levels, it's rain, but that rain falling onto cold surfaces, again, bringing the risk of ice. Elsewhere, for the vast majority of the UK, it's dry and clear as we start off Friday. But there will be those freezing fog patches, so poor visibility for parts of Northern Ireland into Wales, the Midlands, for example. And that fog will be slow to clear. Where we've got the fog, of course, temperatures will be suppressed throughout the day, not rising above 0 in many places. But where we've got the cloud and those outbreaks of rain, it's going to be a touch milder, although the rain will tend to fizzle away by the afternoon, and most places will end up dry, a few showers into the north and the east. Temperatures 0, 1 degrees at best in many places. Saturday starts off in a similar vein. We've got widespread freezing fog across central and eastern parts of England in particular. We've also got this area of patchy rain into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest, again giving some sleet and snow over the hills. But eventually that moves through and we see a gradual lift in temperatures into next week.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. There's lots of debate going off on gbnews.com/your say about Elon Musk's age. 53 and 42 are the leading contenders so far. We'll look into that. Plus also, PW says, I like Steve's tie. Thank you. Let's just do a little recap of the front pages. It's the first nice thing anyone said about me, so I thought I'd read it out. Let's start with the Telegraph. Reeves missing in action on debt crisis. Daily Mail says UK faces crisis like the 1970s, Reeves warned. Mirror has Musk hate probe. The Daily Express, jihadi bride could run free within days. The Metro, Los Angeles, and the Daily Star. Lettuce, who crashed the economy, tells bloke who's crashing the economy, don't say I crashed the economy. Well, let's get more on that, Kerry. The Daily Mail has this story of a free speech champion. Liz Truss sends a cease and desist letter to a man covered by parliamentary privilege. That will go well. Tell us more.
Yes, exactly. I think this story is kind of laughable, kind of sad, and kind of sweet as well. Liz Truss. Well, I read the headline. Keir Starmer refuses to stop accusing Liz Truss of crashing the economy because he speaks for millions of voters despite her threat. She's threatening to sue the Prime Minister. And he's saying, no, I'm going to keep saying she crashed the economy because she did crash the economy, which, you know, she did. I wonder if he'll be as honest about Rachel Reeves' budget when that crashes as well, which it might well do. Of course, she's famous for achieving a record of only 49 days in office, which is probably the lowest Prime Minister, isn't it? I think I'm right. And basically, I think she did manage to successfully get an apology off the Cabinet Secretary after the King's speech, which said her mini budget was disastrous. But her lawyers have written to Keir Starmer, and they include that his comments were intended to damage our client's reputation and/or for political purposes. That is politics. That is pure. That is exactly politics. That is, if she were to get away with it. I mean, next thing you're going to have the Conservatives suing Labour over the 20 million black hole comments, and everyone is going to sue everyone for every single comment they make in the House of Commons because they are all doing this. They're all accusatory.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. And their argument is, no, she didn't crash it. She just kind of just bumped into a load of fish. It wasn't like she dented it. It wasn't a crash. So
it was slippery. It was slippery. The road was slippery. The wheel wasn't working right.
But to speak to anybody who trying to get a mortgage after her prime ministership, and I think they would call it premiership. They would call it a crashing of the economy, certainly a crashing of their bank balance. So,
yes.
It's ridiculous. You just got to. I mean, why is she wasting her time and money?
Well, it's also the Barbara Streisand effect. Like, if she wants us to not think of her synonymous with crashing the economy, don't have headlines that go, it's about crashing the economy. Don't say I crashed the economy. You've reminded everyone of this. Like, even the Daily Star did the lettuce thing again.
Although I think she's kind of kept going as if nothing happened. And, you know, at the Tory party conferences, she's always got her own little meeting that happens, and a few of her fan club turn up, and apparently it's a thing. So I don't think she's ever really understood. I don't think she even knows she's not Prime Minister anymore.
Do you think she's like one of those open spots who doesn't realise that
they go off
rubbish?
They got one laugh. Years and years, yeah.
All right, Josh, to the eye, and I don't know what the setup to this joke would be, but the punchline is Elon Musk.
How old is
he? How old is he? That is the question.
1,400. So Starmer must stand against Musk and Islamophobia. Labour Muslims urge. Nah.
Do you want to think about it a bit more? No?
All right, Kerry?
Let me say no.
Well, I mean, what it is that they're saying we recognise that classic Islamophobic trait. First of all, they do that thing where they conflate criticism of Islam with criticism of Muslims. And I will say this for the 1,000th time: anti-Muslim bigotry is real and needs to be dealt with and is wrong. And Muslims deserve to live safely. And it's absolutely fine to criticise Islam, which is an ideology. So when people, in this case, the Labour Muslims Council, or whatever, no, they're not Labour Muslims Council, sorry, that's the Labour Muslims Network, conflate the two, are they doing that deliberately so that one doesn't allow any criticism of the other? That is obviously the danger of having the definition of Islamophobia written into law. Anyway, what's going on here is some of the stuff they're saying is ridiculous. They said... they're saying that Muslims have an inherent problem with women, that Muslims demean women, that Muslims bring them their medieval cultures to affect Britain. Well, no, some Muslims do, and some Muslims certainly do demean women, and they go, none of it's true. And that's my issue. It's like, it's not true at all. Well, let's go to Iran, where women are murdered for showing their hair. Let's go to Afghanistan, where women can't actually be in windows anymore, and tell me that Islam, or some Muslims, doesn't demean women. And also homosexuals, and, you know, a lot of hating of Jews as well. So the idea that they're trying to go, no, that's just all lies. It's like, you're lying. Maybe turn some of that criticism towards aspects of your own community so that it could be fixed.
Kerry?
I don't agree.
OK.
No, I do, actually. But you're right. Where were these the Labour Muslims? Where were they during several years in which the Labour Party was hemorrhaging Jews because of all the hatred they were getting? I didn't see this all coming up, and it's now. I absolutely agree. Bigotry is absolutely wrong. Hating any people for what they are and born as is totally utterly deplorable. But religion is up for grabs as for discussion, but also they're angry with people criticising other countries that are Muslim countries. So you can't say a Muslim country has an alien culture or medieval attitudes. Well, what if we're talking about Afghanistan, which is literally curtains for women now? It's women have to close their curtains. They must not even be seen and aren't allowed to talk in public. And when we talk about the laws going on in Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Yemen, Ethiopia, Egypt and so on, there are medieval attitudes happening in countries around the world. And I think that's ridiculous to say we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to. I will.
You just did. I was thinking of Googling, like, what were windows like in medieval times? So I guess we didn't have glass. Did they have glass windows in medieval times?
No, but they'd still have had curtains.
They would have had curtains, that's
no
true.
Window, but still, we know glass, but you'd still pull...
Yeah.
I'm guessing...
Shutters?
Oh, you'd have some fat person stand in front of it.
That's what fat people were for back in the old days.
That's what they used to do, yeah.
Might have made all of that up. Kerry, the Daily Mail. And is this patient zero for the go woke, go broke theory?
We can only hope. Stonewall becomes increasingly reliant on taxpayer money as its overall finances suffer, prompting calls for public bodies to end their support for the LGBTQ plus charity. This is the charity charity that was supposed to be a charity and then became a political lobbyist and activist and completely lost their way. And I think you're going to agree with me if I say that my message to them is bye-bye. And they had their time. They really wanted to push things like in schools where they wanted to stop even using terms like boys and girls. And it was this weird blank slate stupidity that was way out of their purview. And they've made... And what?
Just think words like
science. They don't like words like science. And basically, you eat what you sow, and they sowed a load of poo, and they're eating it.
Nice. If you ban girls and boys, you get rid of one of the best Blur songs.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
They're obviously Oasis fans. Not only being a lobby group, arguably, they then became part of government in that they were absolutely... they had their sort of... I don't like using the word tentacles. What's another analogy for... They had their reach everywhere.
Many arms.
They had a lot of dipping...
Fingers in pies.
Fingers in pies. Maybe fingers is maybe not a good... Anyway, whatever it is...
Thumbs in dikes.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now you're going to get... Now you've made them relevant again. So what's scary? So their money's gone down, but you know what? Their champion scheme has dropped from 2.9, which is where they go into companies and they say, "Yeah, you're really good because you gave us loads of money and you did everything that we said, and now you can't say the word woman anymore." And now, but they went down from 2.9 million to 2.4 million. So they're still raking it in. They're getting more money from our government. They're getting last year they got 572,000. This year they got 618,000 from our government. How are they getting a penny? They are a lobby group. They are a lobby group and they're getting money from our government. It's not enough they can't con everybody else. We're having to pay for the con.
Yeah. But their money is going down and public bodies are taking money and support away from them. I've always thought Stonewall's a terrible title anyway, suggesting obstruction and evasiveness.
Well, it's the name of the bar, isn't it?
But I'm still change the fact it's still a terrible name for what it infers anyway. And
I liked it. It was strength. It was strong.
I mean, I think there should be a charity where kids who are troubled and confused can go and get help and talk to people and so on. And I think they've blown it. I think that's what's so sad about it, is that there are many young people who could have done with their help, and instead they wanted to make this... They overshot their load. They made it about something much bigger, as you're describing.
Come on, fingers and dikes.
You're reading something into everything tonight. Can't say a word around you, Josh.
At least I can pretend that mine had two meanings. Your one was
the old days.
Right. By the way, Stonewall did some amazing stuff.
Yes.
They are absolutely... Yes. They were a great charity and they helped bring about equality in this country for homosexuals.
Right? What? And they blew it.
I'm a bit strange today.
All right, still to come, the end of AI and the end of phone calls. And can your electric supplier break into your home? Find out next. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's not too hard to find something a little warmer than the UK. Around the Mediterranean, temperatures are generally in the low teens, but it's not completely dry. A few showers are possible across Cyprus this weekend, so looking fairly wet across southern Italy and Croatia, although that rain will be scooting away by Sunday. Plenty of sunshine across the east and the south coast of Spain, and lots of sunshine for the Canaries. It will be quite breezy in Madeira, quite a lot of cloud likely here over the next few days as well, turning a little colder in Italy.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Have you noticed that more and more stores are closing? Well, last year, apparently 13,000 stores closed for the last time on the high street.
Well, experts warn the worst is still to come for our small businesses.
Well, let's talk to retail expert Jeremy Baker. Good morning to you, Jeremy. How bad is it and what can be done?
Well, nothing can be done about it. Retail is like that. It's a boom and bust operation. So last year, let's say you had a shop and it was booming. This year, the consumer can just change their mind. They don't need to come back to your shop ever again.
Well, it is sad, Jeremy, because our high streets are the beating heart of our communities, aren't they? And for many people, I know I can relate to my high street, it is such a depressing sight, walking down there and seeing them all boarded up and closed down.
But how often do you walk down the boarded up high street? I think people move on to something else. The online world is very big. And lots of other things are very exciting. And so people, you know, the shop, I like to go to my GP in a shopping centre and get my tests done there rather than tramp off all the way to the GP, for example. And children could go to little schools in the high street. I've seen that happen already. So lots of things could happen to the high street. It could be much more a social centre, much more kind of like pubs, coffee shops, all that. Charities. I don't see anything wrong with charities taking over, but the idea of the shop-centred high street finished, that's gone, never coming back. Goodbye. It's not sad, it's just life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. You can get involved, gbnews.com/your say. Pooper Scooper says, I don't like Steve's tie, but I do like Josh's glasses. Couldn't even let me have that.
Thank you.
Just one thing in my life. Josh, to the eye, and you know these people who say, if that side wins the election, I'm leaving. Do they realise they're helping the other side win?
It seems like, yeah, I'm physically afraid to live here. The LGBTQ people planning to leave Trump's US. This is in the eye, which would explain, it's one of those articles where they've kind of come up with their conclusion and gone out and found a bunch of people and said, hey, are you afraid of Trump? Are you going to leave America because you're LGBTQ? And they found a bunch of people who've said exactly that. Yeah. Again, conflating homosexuals with the TQ part of it. So when they're saying that they are anti-LGBT, no, it's not. They're not even as anti-trans. What arguably people have been doing is fighting for women's rights and the ability for women to be safe in their own sports and in prison, which is the only two things that women do.
Just for the videos I watch,
yeah. They're just prison and sports.
You really know your women.
Yeah. So there's a gentleman here, Ryan. He says that he's scared. He says, I'm encouraging all my gay friends to leave the country. He says, I feel safer in Europe. And he's moving to Bradford.
He clearly doesn't know Europe very well. This is a prediction article, isn't it? It's really him saying what's going to happen when Trump gets in. The truth is we know nothing about what Trump's going to get in. The media does set up Trump as a potential monster, and Trump sets him up as himself as a potential monster. And he will. But often we don't know the times of when it's Trumpy humour, it's extreme rhetoric, and so on. And I agree, it can get confusing for it. We don't really know what he's going to do about Gaza or about Ukraine, or whether he is going to be a dictator on day one, as he has claimed to be, or whether that was humour. This seems like a typical... This is stirring up an overreaction. And this guy, Ryan, is planning on emigrating and going to Sicily, which I thought that was for cisgendered people, actually, going by its name. He should be going to Transylvania. But overall, this is just... it's a nonsense article. It doesn't really tell us anything.
All right,
Goodbye,
Kerry,
article.
have a good crack at this one, then. The Telegraph. Zuckerberg is making Facebook so much like X. Give him 3 weeks and he'll be saying that Starmer's a Jim or Fix-It fan.
It's OK to say trans people are mentally ill, says Facebook, which means, therefore, you have to. If they say you do it, if Facebook says you jump into a fire, then you must jump into a fire. So, yeah, it's not imperative or conditional. They're talking about gender dysphoria, and it's OK to say it's mental illness. What I don't understand about this is there's been, like, years of massive... I think about 5 million shows by comedians in Edinburgh destigmatising mental illness, to say it's not a bad thing and we shouldn't talk about it in a negative way, and yet saying someone has mental illness is somehow evil.
It's almost like what comedians do.
Wrong in the first place. Yes, they've had no effect. Women in Liverpool are still going out orange, and women in Newcastle are still going out without tops on.
Aeroplane food has not improved.
Yeah, it's strange that most people don't want to win a Perrier. What's wrong with them? But it's pretty crazy. So when you sort of read it out and you go, oh my God, they're now allowed to say that women are household objects or property. Like, these are not things. But the difference is actually in this, which is going to be interesting to see more on Facebook and Instagram, is that people have to use their own identity, whereas they don't next. So the argument goes with free speech is that you get to then see what people really think. Now, if there's someone you know who is referring to women in such a, what I would say, despicable way, then I'd rather know that they exist. And that's what you're going to see under Facebook,
so you
which
can make
you don't
friends
see.
with them.
Yeah, exactly. So we can join my group together, the Women in Sport and Prison group. So I think that this, but technically, by the way, being transgender, whatever, gender dysmorphia is a mental health condition. So that's just going back to what it always was.
Yeah, you should say that on Facebook then. It's the place for you now, by the look of it. The show's nearly over. Let's take a quick look at Friday's front pages before we go. The Telegraph, Reeves missing in action on debt crisis. The Daily Mail goes with UK faces crisis like the 1970s, Reeves warned. We love nostalgia, don't we? Mirror goes with Musk hate probe. Daily Express, jihadi bride could run free within days. The Metro has the headline pun Lost Angeles. The Daily Star, Lettuce, who crashed the economy, tells bloke who's crashing the economy, don't crash the economy. Well, that's it for tonight's show. Thanks to my guests, Kerry and Josh. Josh will be back tomorrow night at 11 p.m, joined by Paul Cox and Nick Dixon. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay exactly where you are. Some food is on the way that we call breakfast. Until the next one, have yourself a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to stay cold out there for the next 24 hours. Frost and ice are the main issues because for most it will be dry as this area of high pressure moves in. However, we keep the northerly winds for the north of Scotland, the east coast as well, so further showers coming through overnight, and where those showers fall onto the cold surfaces, of course, there's always the risk of icy patches. In fact, just about anywhere could see slippery surfaces by the start of Friday. For most, though, it's a clear night with freezing fog patches forming Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the Midlands, and temperatures dropping below -5, below -10 in places. It's not going to be quite as cold in the far southwest because here we've got an Atlantic front moving in. That's going to bring out breaks of rain with snow falling above 150 metres. So Dartmoor, a few more centimetres of snow. At lower levels, it's rain, but that rain falling onto cold surfaces, again, bringing the risk of ice. Elsewhere, for the vast majority of the UK, it's dry and clear as we start off Friday. But there will be those freezing fog patches, so poor visibility for parts of Northern Ireland into Wales, the Midlands, for example. And that fog will be slow to clear. Where we've got the fog, of course, temperatures will be suppressed throughout the day, not rising above 0 in many places. But where we've got the cloud and those outbreaks of rain, it's going to be a touch milder, although the rain will tend to fizzle away by the afternoon, and most places will end up dry, a few showers into the north and the east. Temperatures 0, 1 degrees at best in many places. Saturday starts off in a similar vein. We've got widespread freezing fog across central and eastern parts of England in particular. We've also got this area of patchy rain into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest, again giving some sleet and snow over the hills. But eventually that moves through and we see a gradual lift in temperatures into next week.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead.